Welcome to the show, all. And as usual, we're in the mood for some comedy. So we're going to talk to someone who understands it uh, top to bottom. Joseph Mallozzi, best known as the creator of both the comic and the TV show version of Dark Matter. He's been with the Stargate SG-1 family since season 4 of that show. But more importantly, he's worn so many hats and spoken so many dialects as being one of the many just creative writers on numerous shows. But well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, and you have been a big part of my childhood, more than I even realized. Yeah, you've written for so many just Canadian produced TV shows that were just syndicated, just everything from Flying Rhino to Richard Scarry.
Oh yeah. Those are I got my start in animation, and I kind of just lucked into it because I actually wanted to, obviously, I wanted to write movies.
Absolutely.
And I ended up reaching out to like 100 production companies, and like I think maybe a handful got back and said no thanks, but one of them got back to me. They were an animation company, and they were like, well, we're not really looking for anyone to read scripts or to pitch movies, but if you want to write for animation, this is how you do it. And that's how I did it. I got my foot in the door in animation, and worked my way up, and eventually transitioned from animation to live action teen sitcom, a show called Student Bodies, and then from there to like 1 hour live action adventure, and then eventually Stargate. And whenever new writers are trying to break into the field, I always suggest one way that they might, that may not be so obvious, is to maybe try to get in the door through animation, because animation producers tend to be more receptive to new writers, and it allows you to hone your craft while you get paid. So,
that's lovely.
A typical bit of advice.
And not the first. I've seen so many do it, from being the guy who buys people coffee to providing, like, being a makeup assistant, writer assistant, even a lot of stuntmen for the longest time said that's how they got their SAG card. They were a day player, and then eventually some director's assistant rounded him up and said, hey, can you handle being punched in the face? Hey, you're actually a really charismatic guy. Let's give you some dialogue. And then went from there. But
yeah,
no,
it's very rare that you kind of just explode. You'll usually have to like start small and work your way up.
Absolutely. And animation, it seems like that one is really getting even more competitive, which is kind of a shame, because you wonder how many other minds that haven't had their idea come to fruition yet on just saying, hey, I got a perfect idea for a learning kids show, or I got what could potentially be the next Shrek or Toy Story formula. And have you ever tried showing some of your friends and family some of your kid-friendly programs?
They're familiar with my all of my work. But of course they have their preferences. They kind of lean towards more to the adult fare, like Dark Matter.
Well, it's not bad, but it's a shame that some of them, I don't even know where you could find them now, because they don't seem to be streaming anywhere, and the DVDs are kind of out of print.
yeah, kind of sad.
Yeah, I hope someone can possibly remaster them and upload them on like a PBS app one day. But
maybe we can do like a the Joseph Mallozzi collection, just kind of like
there you go.
A trip down memory lanes. It's basically I'm produce almost 400 hours of television. It would be a daunting task, not just putting it together, but actually
this will be on your tombstone.
Yes.
Joey M's greatest hits. Maybe that could be your. Have you ever thought of doing DJ work? Joey M. DJ Joey.
Surprisingly, no. Surprisingly, no.
Good news. The Country Mouse and the City Mouse Adventures. That's right. That old French produced HBO animation is now on Tubi. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
There's one you could show.
I don't think. Yeah, I
always
rarely ever watch any of my shows once they're finished, just because I watch them so much during the production process. So that would be a blast for me too, to actually watch those old shows.
You're too close to it.
Yes, that's it.
which is not bad. I mean, we all do it. I mean, uh, for a while, I had to even explain that to family members where they're like, "Oh, I don't get this movie talk. Okay, Apple Cart does this, yada yada."
Right.
Uh, and then telling them about, hey, why did an actor not want to see it? I'm like, because they're seeing themselves, and what if they're playing a bad guy or some other the role's uncomfortable,
Yeah, everyone has a reason. For me, it's just when you're in production, for instance, on Stargate, we would, I would write the script, and then I would try to be on set for this show, and then we would watch the edit. Usually, we'd watch the director's cut. Then I'd go in and watch the episode at least like a dozen times in editing, and then we would watch it again with the mix. And so by that point, you've seen it at least, I want to say at least 30 times. So, just to see it one more time finished is just kind of a bridge too far.
You already kind of know what isn't working at that point, so you're
Yes.
not even worried about.
Yes. Hopefully, most of it is working though by that point.
Oh no,
Yes.
totally. But like,
Yes.
you're not even thinking.
Yeah.
You kind of can't at that point even care if someone will find it entertaining. You're like, well, this is my brand. They did their part. The director's happy. I got to be happy with that line of dialogue. And it's like, that joke, it's coming off flat, even though it sounded great on paper.
Yeah, it happens.
um, and we've just all seen the making of the show, of the Stargate shows, and it's just so lovely to see what a collective and creative family it is, and let alone how half the cast has gone on to do some directing and producing of other projects. Did you ever want to consider a little more directing or help?
Not really.
Yeah.
The directing is something that I don't know. I have much respect for directors, but I really like, as a writer, I've always appreciated producers who let me do my thing. And as a writer producer, I'm always respectful of directors to let them do their thing. I mean, it's another hat I suppose I could wear, but I'm really more interested in writing and producing than kind of being on set. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And well, I'm not sure if you've been asked this before. I couldn't find anything. But what element, you've done so many different genres, let alone ones that are kind of a mashup of different ones. But what elements do you really love to write the most? Is it exposition? Is it comedic elements versus suspense?
Definitely not exposition. Exposition is always a challenge in sort of a way that you can sort of relay it in the most succinct and entertaining way and an obtrusive way possible. For me, it's anything with like an undercurrent of humor. So that's always my favorite. Any type of narrative element that you can surprise the audience, that is always a lot of fun, where you set up a story that you think is going to go one way, and then you kind of pull the rug out from underneath them. That is always very satisfying. Yes. So I did a lot of that on Dark Matter, both the humor and the surprises. So that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure you've been asked a million times. Did you try pitching it to some other networks?
I didn't really do any of the pitching. What I did was I pitched Dark Horse Comics about doing it as a comic book, and they loved the idea. And then my agent sent it to several production companies, and one of the production companies, Prodigy Pictures, President Jay Firestone, they ended up optioning the material, and he went out and pitched it. And I'm not sure where he pitched it to, but he went to Sci-Fi Originals in LA, and they passed. And then he went to Sci-Fi in New York, and they picked it up as an acquisition. And so I sensed there was a very sort of acrimonious working relationship with Sci-Fi, because they originally passed, but their East Coast wing picked it up as an acquisition. And so we weren't a Sci-Fi original. We were an acquisition, meaning that they didn't really develop our show. They didn't put a lot of money into it. They just paid a pittance to air us to license the the show for their network. And so I think they always kind of resented the fact that
you went behind their back.
no, well, but also we ended up outperforming other originals, those sci-fi originals. So that created kind of an awkward situation.
Yeah, that's rough, man, because it's not a contest, It's
true, but in their eyes, it very much was actually. So, unfortunately,
that's a shame. It's got a huge fan base. It's just we're never gonna get that closure that happens in the last 3 episodes of season 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I haven't given up hope on a mini series, and I'm in touch with the cast all the time. I saw Zoe Palmer, who plays the android, last week. We went for lunch, and
She was fantastic.
Next week I'll be in LA, and we'll be going to dinner with Melissa, who played 2.
They were doing that with so many Canadian produced shows for a while. Like there was this one that was kind of like The Fifth Element called Vagrant Queen, and it was on for barely a season. And it seemed like Sci-Fi just wanted something to just kind of kill time, take up space, but not commit. And it's like, well, like you say, if people get hooked on something, don't be a killjoy.
I've always kind of felt that there's a kind of unwritten rule or agreement between broadcasters and audiences where essentially you're asking audiences to commit their time to watching a show that you are airing. So I think the least you can do is give them an ending, like something even in the way of like a 1-hour final episode or a movie, ideally a movie.
Instead of trying to get the syndication order.
Yeah, instead of just boom, ending it and that's that.
It never really makes much sense. It just kind of shows you. I mean, you would see sometimes HBO admins kind of talking smack about their successful shows, and it's like, well, own it, guys. Why even distribute it if you don't like it? So have you ever thought of teaching a few like writing courses for those who are trying to get into it, or is it very hard to format?
No, teaching is something it's not really on my radar or my bucket list. Essentially, what I do is I'm very active on Twitter, where I dispense my screenwriting wisdom or insights into sort of pitching and various aspects of the industry, and I do it for free. If I'll do the occasional podcast as well, and do Q&As, but actually doing kind of a structured teaching, a structured teaching environment is just not something that really appeals to me. I just kind of like the kind of more kind of free flow of being at home writing. If I get a show into production, great. That's when I'm on set and get into the structure of a production, but I'm not really interested in entering a classroom.
All right, no, that's cool to know. I just it's a lot to ask as well. So
well, I don't know. A lot of people do it, and a lot of people do enjoy it very much, and a lot of people are very good at it. I just don't. It's like I said, not on my to-do list.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's interesting to me just from a third-party perspective because I've taken screenwriting classes, and it seems like everyone pretty much gives you rules, but doesn't always tell you how you can break said rules. And it's like, well,
right.
And horror, action, and sci-fi no one really seems to have an answer for why those work either. They just are kind of like, well, let's just hire people who worked on various iterations of Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, and Star Trek. And it's like, well, but why do they work so well? We should examine why they work.
Correct.
And how you've been at numerous conventions and behind the scenes docs. How emotionally rewarding has those been to just kind of just spill some secrets, as well as just kind of all this energy in the room that's coming off of fans who are just like, oh, but that was awe-inspiring mystery, and that was such a funny skit you guys wrote, brought to life.
Well, I mean, I've been doing it since I started on Stargate. I've been very active online, mostly through my blog, but also on Twitter, to a lesser extent on Reddit, and an even much more lesser extent on Instagram and Facebook. But I've always been very approachable. So if the fans ever have any questions, they can always be free to approach and interact. So it's not something really new to me. I've been doing it for I say 16 years, or probably been longer. No, I guess. Yes, it's been longer than 16 years. I don't. When did I start on Stargate? I guess
season 4 in 2000. So
yeah, like 23 years.
Man, time flies, and
it does.
I know Michael Shanks said in some interview he was amazed at how so many people had shown their kids it. They were young adults or teens when it was on, and it hadn't really been syndicated in a while, and it was a while before it hit streaming again. And he's like, it's amazing they own all the DVD and Blu-ray sets.
Yeah. I'm always amazed by the strength of the fan base. Even though the show's really been off the air for the franchise has been off the air for over a decade. Especially in Europe. Europe has the most diehard Stargate fans. I mean,
really?
Our former cast members can't walk down the street without being recognized. It's wild.
Oh, and Tilk actor Chris Judge, he became part of the Big with Gamers on the God of War thing.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see how he won an award?
I saw. I didn't see the speech. I heard it was a pretty long speech.
He dedicated it to his son, who was a gamer.
Amazing.
And I'm just like, whoa, I would have never guessed. It's like I thought he was gonna, for a while, kind of just show up, do conventions, and do the typical kind of good guy, bad guy guest spots on TV, and then here he is, and he's like, he did this for like 3 different reasons, and I'm like, that you can't make that up. That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing how basically everyone's career has taken different paths, and no less successful paths after Stargate.
Totally. Well, why do you feel like society has also kind of become more comfortable? I mean, you're a pet guy, but why do you think pets kind of bring us all together in a way, especially on social media, compared to just sharing photos of food we're cooking?
Pets, I don't know. They, it's something that most everyone kind of responds to. So it's, it allows you sort of another glimpse at kind of these people. I'm always kind of interested, I've always been a pug and a French bulldog guy. So I'm always interested in the celebrities who have pugs and French bulldogs.
Right. And you get to actually kind of see the other side of this dog. Is like, why is this dog considered dangerous? It's all about the training and the, how they're bred and how you raise them.
Correct. Right. Although, pugs and French bulldogs are not all that dangerous. They're pretty chill.
Pop culture likes to make it sound it's like, no, it's not it.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates, Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Breakfast time. Listen at Breakfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. Given how there's so many different like digital script writing methods people can use, Celtex and what have you, what are some good methods that you would recommend others just kind of use to just remind themselves to stay on track, stay focused on their narrative, and not subscribe to the whole, oh, I guess I can't do this, I guess I got a writing block?
Really it's kind of a cliche, but if you want to be a writer, write. Really that's what it comes down to. Read a lot, watch a lot, and write a lot. If you're, if I'm on the clock and I have a deadline, if I'm writing a script, I try to write 5 pages a day, for instance. So set a goal for yourself. And if you hit writer's block is a luxury, frankly, for writers who are not working writers, because if you're working writers, you're on a deadline. You can't afford a writer's block. So basically, if you have a writer's block when you've been hired to write a script and you can't deliver your script, then it's probably one of the last times you'll probably be hired to write a script. So writer's blocks are, like I said, more a luxury for people who have the time to spare. And in that case, I would, again, suggest kind of just force yourself to either write or do something writing adjacent, either read a script, watch a movie, and or read a book, and just kind of get those creative juices flowing. Or maybe if you're stuck on a scene, think about it and consider a way to attack it in a kind of a completely different way. For me, often I kind of like to use humor in the dialogue, and if I'll run a scene through my head with dialogue, and that will sort of get me excited enough to actually sit down and write the scene.
It's amazing how the simplest methods can see if it's working or not from just saying it aloud. Hey, and if you can't say it with a straight face, then not even the best actor in the world can say it. Any writing workshops that are held nationwide or annually that you'd recommend people seek out?
I don't really know anything. I know there are a lot of people who basically go to writing workshops or take online courses or read books, but I don't know. That's totally for me, I learned screenwriting through one of those very basic books by Sid Field, where he basically lays out the structure, really the format of a script, and then just from watching movies that I loved and TV shows that I loved, I essentially wrote. So in terms of screenwriting, if you're a writer and you need help, I guess just kind of informational help in terms of how to format. You're just starting and you want to know how to format a script, or you need kind of that initial push, or you're curious about how getting into the business are kind of beneficial. Is one of the things I always say is these courses can teach you to become a better writer, but they can't teach you to become a writer. So I think you have to have it in you to start.
Oh, hey, that is a start for sure. And it is eye-opening how, especially when you look at YouTube videos that'll talk about, hey, they're breaking down a scene by scene, and it's just you're going to find something here and there. And it's see, you can't call this or that a bad program or not an entirely bad one.
Well, I see it online where basically writers or people in the industry say you shouldn't criticize a movie or a TV show because no one sets out to make a bad movie or TV show. To which I say, you know, th- that's ridiculous. If you're spending money or time and money investing in a movie, watching a movie or TV show, you're well within your rights to criticize and what you like or what you don't like.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just it seems like a lot of people act like it's black or white, like there's only this or that, and it's like, well, it can be a bit of everything. Like
Right.
the scene is working, it's just not well told. I mean,
Mhm.
I applaud some of the new Star Trek shows which have decided to fix some of the issues that were in some of the infamous movies. They revisited it instead
Mhm.
of doing what every other franchise does, which is pretend like it never happened, doesn't exist,
Mhm. Mhm.
and divide their fan base more. I'm like, come on. There's going to be a fan of anything out there, so you might as well just improve what the previous writer or director could not bring to life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and altogether, so do you talk with your writing colleagues, Paul Mooley and company, on a monthly
Sorry.
basis?
Sorry. What was the question?
Do you reach out to your writing partners, Robert C. Cooper, Paul Mooley, and Brad Wright on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis. I mean, I exchange occasional emails with Brad and Rob and Paul. Paul's my former writing partner. Rob is in. Rob and I are in the same fantasy football league, so we're in more
Nice.
regular contact. Yes. So
Lovely. Uh, any of your other movies and shows that you might want to revisit down the road? I know Utopia Falls is still on Hulu, and that's kind of a cult hit.
yeah, that one was not mine. That one was I was approached to show run by the creator, R.T. Thorne, and it wasn't a show that's really in my wheelhouse. But I like RT and I like the people. And so I ended up developing the show with him and overseeing the writer's room and the production. So I mean, if it does have like a surprising cult following.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
but
music show.
yeah. So I don't know if what the future holds for that one. More Stargate is always like Dark Matter is always kind of enticing, but I think Amazon is kind of wants to step away from kind of the established Stargate, classic Stargate, and wants to do kind of something more along the lines of like kind of the reboots of all like the sci-fi shows that are
Gotcha.
um, are on now.
Yeah,
So
I wish them the best without dividing anyone.
mhm,
If they can do it with the Expanse, I,
mhm,
I have faith because they seem to have
mhm,
figured out sci-fi.
mhm.
Do you have any fun stories from working on so many other syndicated shows like The Lost World and Largo Winch, which is a French Canadian
No,
co-production? No.
yeah, no, those were very early on in my career, and they were really more of a freelance basis. I went in, Paul and I went in. I just remember for Lost World, we went in. We were in LA for a couple of days, and so they said, "Let's come in and break the episode." And usually, when I break an episode, um, I like to know what the obviously the beginning of the episode is, the end of the episode, and then I work my way down from macro to micro. What are the act breaks? How does each act break ends? And what is each scene and each act? And they went about it. I remember sitting down and they went about it in a kind of very weird way, very linear way, where they just went, what happens in this in the first scene and what happens in the second scene, and they worked their way through to pretty much at the end of the day, they realized, holy crap, this isn't working. We're gonna have to start over the next day. And I just thought, wow, this is an incredibly inefficient way to break a story. So that was my experience of
I'm sorry.
Lost World. Yeah, as for Largo Winch, not really. I think we pitched a couple of ideas and we ended up writing a couple of episodes, but it wasn't really memorable. The experience wasn't memorable, and I think in the end, maybe the show wasn't that memorable either.
Yeah, I only knew about it because it was like a book series, and there was like
Mhm,
two
mhm,
international
mhm,
movie versions they did to
mhm,
capitalize on the success of Born Identity and the new James
mhm.
Bond. But I knew it was kind of a cult show because some future A-listers guest starred on it on occasion, but yeah, it
Mhm.
is a little underwhelming when you're kind of being told duly noted,
Mhm. Mhm.
we're letting you do this and that, but you can't do really what you kind of want to do that could easily make the show better instead of just robotic.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, I'm sorry. And you've been attached to the Powder Mage trilogy for a while. Are you still kind of loosely attached to it?
Yeah, I mean, basically we've gone out with it.
It's a book
The
series for
issue
those who
is
don't know.
that, yeah, I mean, um, it's a it's an expensive show to produce, and so for that reason, a lot of potential buyers have been a bit leery, and then the strike came along. So I
Mm,
mean, like anything, you've got so many kind of balls in the air. You end up like um, developing, like I'm developing, I think 7 or 8 different things at the moment. Actually, probably more closer to 10, and
oh man.
you never know what's going to land. So you just have to have a lot of balls in the air.
I wish nothing but the best. Brings me to a fan question. We got James Gapsby of the Who Would Win show. He's a big Stargate guy. He actually wanted to know your thoughts on the writers' strike, which when he asked it was still going on at this
Yeah,
time.
I'm in Canada, so I'm not as, I guess I guess I am affected. Um, because it was the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, but they've
Yeah,
settled, thankfully,
right.
it's and I mean I say I was I wasn't affected in that I wasn't you know down on the picket lines because I'm in Toronto. Um, but I mean, I certainly wasn't going out and pitching out of respect. But now that it's over, I look forward to seeing, what opportunities arise.
Yeah, it's just kind of sad to think that people could have been denied various jobs just because, hey, we want to do it faster and cheaper, but not better. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
I don't get it. And also, uh, given how we've all kind of been embracing just kind of staying positive and various trends and algorithms on social media, it can be easy to get kind of annoyed by toxic energy that peers give off. What do you recommend? Especially when you're in a profession which has so much rejection and acceptance. What are some good ways to just kind of put your shields up as well as just vent and just realize, hey, you met someone who was
I don't know.
unpleasant.
I think we're kind of it come to a time in society where everyone is so thin-skinned that the slightest uh, critique, is like a grievous wound. I think if you're an artist and don't want to be criticized, I would strongly urge you to stay off social media entirely. I mean, you need social media to promote yourself. So, maybe just turn off comments, just promote yourself and don't interact with people, don't read the comments.
I like that
If,
idea.
or, if you want to really promote yourself and, you're an artist and you believe in your work, suck it up and, you know, engage if you want to. So I mean, there are many ways to avoid having your feelings hurt. I guess. Um, my advice would be don't be so thin-skinned, but you know, I'm sure others will have other advice.
No, that's cool to know, because I'll see often kind of black and white, or I care, or I don't care, and it's kind of cool to just kind of have kind of an in between. Is like, hey, I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
promote my thing, and I'm skedaddling after this. Have fun, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I see so many who get kind of just annoyed by just even the most minimum thing, and I'm like, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, well, I wish you nothing but the best on the Mage trilogy because given how people have embraced Rings of Power or not, as well as the Wheel of Time, it seems like again we're in a much safer route now to attempt fantasy type material.
And yeah, I mean, from a visual effects standpoint, there is no better time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see so many people who get all freaked out and are like, I don't know that I can do it. And I'm like, what's stopping you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Altogether, when you are, uh, what are some other tips and tricks for telling anyone who's working on an independent project on just like what to look for and what to avoid? Like, how can you tell the serious apart from the not so serious?
What do you mean?
Just knowing that you're going to be on a reliable film shoot. I know a few pointers like, hey, this person does or does not have like a shot list or storyboards, or they're
Well,
giving you maybe answers. That's not good.
that's tough. I mean, essentially, I kind of work with like a team that I've been working with for a while, and every once in a while you'll have someone who doesn't have their act together. I mean, one of the things that I learned very early on in Stargate was LTS. Brad Wright told me, well, I was like, I asked about a certain actor and his response was LTS. And I asked, what's LTS? And he says, life's too short. So there's just certain individuals that you hear about that are just not pleasant to work with. So if you can avoid them, avoid them. But when I joined Stargate in his fourth season, SG-1's fourth season, they had actually worked out all the kinks and they had, gotten rid of all kind of the difficult people to work with. So it was a very well-run machine. And so when I did Dark Matter, I essentially applied what I learned from Stargate onto Dark Matter, and it's hard work, but everyone is very good at what they did. I don't think there was really any instances where I work with people who were unprepared. I think on Utopia Falls once, there was a director who came in with no shot list, but I didn't hire them. The production company did, so that was on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a little eye-opening and at the same time just startling, and just have to say, okay, we can solve this now, or we can go into micromanage mode.
Yeah, hopefully, you do your due diligence before the production starts. Like as a showrunner, for instance, I usually, rely on my line producer, and that, my team to sort of vet all the department heads, and then rely on the department heads to vet the people under them to make sure that everyone, A, is good at the job, and B, is happy to be there.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And when you are, going to all these production meetings, what kind of note taking would you recommend for those who are, trying to get their feet wet, but also try and learn all these other tips and tricks? Because not everyone's good at taking note,
I mean, if you're going to be involved in, in a production, you should ask if you could sit in on the production meetings and just, take note of everything that's going on, and obviously learn from the process, because the prep is, I want to say, a long and involved process, but it's actually surprisingly short. Usually, when one episode is shooting, the other episode is prepping, and then as soon as that episode ends, it's your episode, you're up, and then another episode prep. So just try to be as involved as possible in all aspects of prep week, from the concept meeting through the various department meetings, through casting, and the final production meeting. As if you're like just starting out, I don't know how you've ended up on the production, but if you got some free time, ask the showrunner to sit in.
Lovely. Just one of my final questions, and we'll kind of just wrap this up.
Yeah.
Given how you've embraced both comics and TV, have you ever thought of just kind of wrapping up any unrealized storylines, just kind of for Dark Matter or Stargate in comic book form again?
Stargate, no, because it's not. I don't have the rights to Stargate. That would be. It was like an MGM decision, and next now a Amazon decision.
All right. No.
One comics company actually did reach out. Like for some reason, whenever they've done the comics, they've never reached out to the writers. They've reached out to people who've never done the show, who weren't involved in the show. But once Paul and I were approached, and we pitched them the unproduced Stargate Atlantis movie that we wrote, and turning that into a comic book, and they liked the idea, and they brought it back to MGM, and MGM didn't like the idea, and then those plans fell through. So that's really the closest Stargate came. This is the Dark Matter, is possible, but in my mind, I would love to finish it on screen with a mini series that maybe picks up events maybe 5-10 years later, and so there's always an opportunity for that. So I'll I want to wait and see how if the opportunity presents itself in time.
Yeah, no, okay, no, and interesting to hear. I just was curious because I know Dark Matter started off as a comic, and
yeah,
Sci-Fi abandoned it. I don't know when anyone will get a chance to revisit it.
Yeah, hopefully in time.
I wish nothing but the best for you, and
thank you.
Any other just kind of closing thoughts or just remarks you just love to leave with other people? Following their dreams on the writing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like I said, if you want to write. If you're stuck, read. And watch TV shows or movies. Just always keep your mind active.
Okay, no, very, very cool. Okay, well, you stay safe out there in the meantime.
All right.
And, thank you ever so much for just kind of a mind meld. This was very
no problem. My pleasure.
And I'll let you know when it uploads. Godspeed to you out there.
All right. Thanks, Cam. Take it easy.
Anytime, my dude. Take care.
Bye.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up